The current shows nitrogen monoxide mercy, the reservoir's dark secret. If I slipped there, they would never find me. Most people look at the surface of a reservoir and see a peaceful, glass-like mirror reflecting the sky. But as a veteran firefighter with 35 years of water rescue under my belt, I see a graveyard. I see the invisible hands of a cold current that can pull a grown man down faster than he can scream. That night at Blackwood Reservoir, the water wasn't just cold, it was predatory. I was standing on a crumbling concrete ledge, the rain slicking my gear, staring into a black abyss where a car had just disappeared with 2 people trapped inside. No divers were coming for another 40 minutes. It was just me, a safety rope, and a choice that defied every bit of my training. If you've ever wondered what it's like to feel the weight of a river trying to claim your soul, stay with me. This is the story of why the water never forgets. Welcome back to Firefighter Rescue Stories. I'm Chief Mike. Throughout my career, I've fought fire, I've fought gravity, but nothing is as relentless as the water. Before we go beneath the surface of this rescue, I need you to do something important. Hit that subscribe button and join our crew. We're sharing the raw, unedited truth of the front lines, and your support is what allows me to keep these memories from sinking into the dark. If you've ever had a close call near the water, or if you have a deep respect for our dive teams, drop a comment below. I want to know who is standing on the shore with me today. Now let's go back to a humid July night when the sky decided to break open. The call came in at 11:15 p.m. We had been dealing with a 100-year storm for 3 days straight. The ground was saturated, the rivers were over their banks, and the Blackwood Reservoir, usually a calm spot for weekend fishermen, had turned into a churning cauldron. The spillway was open, and millions of gallons of water were screaming through the gates. The dispatch was frantic. Engine 7, respond to the Blackwood Overlook. A vehicle has left the roadway and is submerged. Witnesses report a father and daughter were inside. The car is drifting toward the intake grates. When we pulled up, the wind was whipping the rain into our faces like needles. I stepped out of the rig and felt the vibration in the ground. That's the first thing people don't realize about a reservoir in flood stage. You don't just hear the water. You feel it in your bones. It's a low-frequency hum of pure power. I ran to the edge of the overlook with my high-powered searchlight. The beam cut through the rain and hit the water about 50 feet out. I saw it a white sedan, its taillights still flickering like dying embers beneath the surface. It was bobbing, caught in a massive eddy created by the overflow. "Chief, the bank is giving way," Sullivan yelled. He was right. The saturated soil was sliding into the water in huge chunks. We couldn't get the heavy rescue truck close enough to use the crane. We were on foot, limited to what we could carry. I looked at the car. It was sinking, nose down. Every second, the air bubble inside was shrinking. "I'm going in," I said. It wasn't a heroic statement. It was a calculation. If we waited for the dive team from the city, we'd be recovering bodies, not saving lives. "Mike, that current is moving at 12 knots near the grates," Sullivan warned, grabbing my shoulder. "If that rope snaps, you're going through the turbines. There's no coming back from that. Tie me off to the axle of the engine," I told him. I stripped off my heavy turnout coat. You can't swim in fire gear. It becomes an anchor. I put on my water rescue vest, snapped the carabiner to my chest harness, and grabbed a window punch tool and a spare respirator. The water was dark, swirling with debris logs, trash, and silt that made it look like liquid chocolate. I stepped into the water. The cold hit me like a physical blow. It knocks the air right out of your lungs. Your body goes into immediate shock, the gasp reflex trying to force you to drown yourself. I fought it. I focused on the white shape of the car. I started to swim, but it wasn't swimming, it was a battle. For every 2 feet I moved forward, the current tried to shove me 3 feet toward the spillway. I could hear the roar of the intake grates getting louder. It sounded like a jet engine muffled by a pillow. "Before I go under that water, I want to talk to you for a second." This is the moment where fear turns into a cold, hard focus. In the fire service, we call it the tunnel. Everything else disappears: the rain, the noise, the danger. It's just you and the victim. If you're feeling the tension of this moment, please hit the like button. It helps the channel grow and ensures these stories reach the people who need to hear them. And tell me, have you ever felt a force of nature that made you feel completely small? Let's talk about it in the comments. Now hold your breath. We're going down. I reached the car just as the roof disappeared beneath the surface. I grabbed the door handle, but the pressure was too great. You can't open a door underwater until the pressure equalizes, and by then, the people inside are usually dead. I pulled myself along the side of the car, my fingers screaming as they gripped the slick metal. I found the side window. I looked inside. Through the glass in the dim light of my waterproof torch, I saw a face. It was a girl, maybe 7 years old. She was pressed against the ceiling of the car, her mouth just inches from the last pocket of air. Her father was next to her, struggling to unbuckle her seatbelt. He saw me. He pounded on the glass, his eyes wide with a silent underwater plea. I took the window punch. I pressed it against the corner of the glass. Snap! The window shattered into a million tiny diamonds. The water rushed in with a violent force, throwing me back. I fought my way back to the opening. I reached in and grabbed the father's hand. He pushed the girl toward me. I grabbed her under her arms and pulled her out of the window. She was limp. I signaled to the shore. "Haul! Haul! Haul!" I screamed into the darkness, though I knew they couldn't hear me. But they felt the line go taut. Sullivan and the crew started winching me back. I held the girl's head above the water, my arm locked around her chest. The current was screaming now, trying to rip her away from me. A massive waterlogged oak branch slammed into my shoulder. I felt the bone pop, a searing white light of pain blinding me for a second. I didn't let go. I couldn't. We hit the muddy bank. Hands reached down and grabbed the girl. "She's not breathing," someone yelled. But I didn't stay to watch. I turned back to the black water. The father was still down there. And the car was moving. The car was sliding. I could hear the metal screeching against the rocks at the bottom of the reservoir as the intake grates began to win the tug of war. The sedan was nose down now, the weight of the water inside dragging it toward the deep end. I didn't even think about my shoulder. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. It numbs the bone and fires up the muscle. I plunged back into the dark. If you've never been in a reservoir during a storm, imagine being inside a washing machine filled with ice cubes and silt. You can't see. You can't hear anything but the vibration of the water. I followed my tether line back down, hand over hand, until my fingers hit the cold steel of the sedan's roof. The car had rolled slightly to the left. The father's arm was reaching out of the broken window, but he wasn't trying to swim. He was stuck. His sleeve or his watch had snagged on the jagged remains of the window frame. He was being dragged down with the ship. I dove deeper, the pressure pushing against my eardrums. I reached him and grabbed his forearm. I could feel his muscles twitching, a sign of the final stages of oxygen deprivation. I pulled my rescue knife from my leg sheath. In that darkness, I had to work by feel alone. I sliced through his jacket sleeve, feeling the blade nick the metal of the door frame. I grabbed his belt and gave a violent heave. Suddenly the car shifted. The current caught the undercarriage, and the sedan did a slow, ghostly barrel roll. For a second, I was pinned between the car and the reservoir floor. My tether line went slack, then snapped tight around a piece of the car's suspension. I was tethered to a sinking anchor. I looked up through the murky water and saw the surface, a blurry, shimmering light that looked 1,000,000 miles away. I was running out of air. My lungs were beginning to burn, that deep, hollow fire that tells you the carbon dioxide is building up. I had to make a choice: cut my line and risk being swept into the turbines, or stay attached to a car that was headed for the abyss. I looked at the father. He was floating next to me, eyes closed, drifting. Before I make that cut, I want you to realize something. This is the moment they don't teach you in the academy. They teach you knots, they teach you buoyancy, but they don't teach you how to say goodbye to the sun. If you're still with me, if you can feel the weight of that water on your chest, hit that like button. It helps us keep these stories afloat. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you had to choose between your safety and a stranger's life? Now I'm reaching for my knife. I didn't cut the line. I used the knife to pry the snagged rope free from the car's axle. It was a desperate, fumbling movement, my fingers numb from the cold. The moment the rope cleared, the car dropped. It disappeared into the blackness below with a low, muffled thump. I was free, and I had the father's collar in my left hand. I signaled the line. 4 sharp tugs, emergency haul. I felt the line jerk. Sullivan and the guys on the shore were pulling with everything they had. We broke the surface about 30 feet from where I'd gone in. I was coughing up reservoir water, gasping for air that tasted like rain and exhaust. The current was still trying to drag us toward the spillway, but the engine's winch was stronger. We hit the mud. The crew hauled us up the embankment like 2 drowned rats. I collapsed on the grass, my lungs burning, my vision swimming in and out of focus. I saw the paramedics working on the little girl a few yards away. They had a bag valve mask on her, pumping life back into her small frame. And then I heard it. A cough, a thin, reedy cry. The father was lying next to me. He groaned, his chest heaving as he vomited up half the reservoir. He rolled over, his eyes searching the darkness. My daughter. She's okay, man, I wheezed, my voice barely a whisper. She's okay. He reached out and grabbed my hand. His grip was weak, but it was the most important handshake of my life. We lay there in the mud, 2 men who had almost stayed at the bottom of the Blackwood Reservoir, watching the red lights of the ambulance flicker against the trees. But as the ambulance pulled away, a new sound emerged over the roar of the spillway. A radio transmission from the bridge above us. "Command, this is Unit 4. We have another vehicle in the water, half a mile upstream. It's a bus." My heart didn't just sink, it turned to lead. My shoulder was screaming, my gear was soaked, and I had just looked death in the eye. But I looked at Sullivan. He was already reaching for a fresh rope. "You got another one in you, Mike?" he asked. His face was etched with the same exhaustion I felt, but his eyes were steady. I stood up. My legs felt like jelly, but I stood up. "Tie me off," I said, "because that's the secret of the water. It never stops, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't feel pity. If we stop, the water wins. And as long as I'm wearing this badge, the water isn't winning today." Before we move to the bridge, I want to thank you for sticking with me. We are about to enter the final chapter of this night, the rescue at the bridge, where the current was even faster and the stakes were even higher. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. You don't want to miss how this night finally ended. I grabbed a fresh light and started walking toward the rig. The rain was still coming down, but the fire inside was back. We had lives to catch before they hit the turbines. The half-mile trek upstream felt like a march through a war zone. The riverbanks were no longer solid ground. They were a slurry of mud and debris that threatened to slide into the churning water with every step. When we reached the bridge, the sight was nightmarish. A small shuttle bus, the kind used for senior centers or hotel transfers, was wedged sideways against one of the concrete bridge pilings. The water was hitting the side of the bus with such force that a massive plume of white spray was shooting 20 feet into the air. The bus was tilting, the driver's side submerged, and the current was beginning to scour the silt from beneath the tires. "The pressure is going to snap that bus in half," Sullivan yelled over the thunder of the river. I looked down from the bridge deck. Through the windows of the bus, I could see shadows moving. 3, maybe 4 people were huddled on the high side of the cabin, clutching the handrails as the vehicle groaned under the weight of the reservoir's fury. There was no time for boats. and the water was too violent for a standard swim. This was going to have to be a technical rope rescue, a high-angle transition into a swift water extraction. "I'm going over the rail," I shouted. My shoulder was a dull, throbbing ache, but I forced it to move. I clipped into a double belay system. I was going to be lowered directly onto the roof of the bus from the bridge deck. It's a move that looks cool in training, but feels like being a piece of bait on a fishing line in real life. As I stepped off the bridge into the open air, the wind caught me, swinging me like a pendulum. Then I hit the water. It wasn't a splash, it was an assault. The spray blinded me, clogging my nose and mouth. I fought to keep my head up as the crew lowered me inch by inch. I landed on the roof of the bus with a metallic thud that I felt in my teeth. The vehicle shuddered beneath me. It was alive, vibrating with the energy of the river. I reached the emergency hatch on the roof. It was jammed by the twisting of the bus frame. I pulled my Halligan tool and jammed it into the seal. I pried with everything I had, my boots slipping on the wet metal. With a screech of tearing aluminum, the hatch popped open. Inside, the smell was a mixture of damp upholstery and sheer cold fear. I looked down into the cabin. An elderly woman was clinging to a seat, her eyes wide with terror. A man was holding her, trying to keep her head above the rising water inside the bus. "One at a time," I yelled. "I'm gonna pull you up. You have to trust me." Before we bring them up, I want you to think about the strength it takes to trust a stranger when the world is literally washing away beneath your feet. These people were terrified, but they didn't panic. They showed a quiet, incredible bravery. If you're inspired by that kind of human spirit, hit that like button one last time. It's for them. And tell me in the comments, who is the person you'd trust most in a crisis? Now let's get them out of there. I lowered a horse collar sling through the hatch. I helped the woman into it first. She was shaking so hard I could hear her teeth chattering over the roar of the water. "Hold on tight, ma'am. You're going for a ride," I whispered. I signaled the bridge, "Haul away." I watched her disappear into the spray, spinning slowly as she was pulled up to the bridge deck. 1. Then the man. 2. The third person was the driver. He was slumped in his seat, his legs pinned by the steering column, much like the truck driver on the highway. But here, the water was his executioner. It was already up to his chest. "I can't get out, Chief," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "Go on. Save yourself before this thing goes over." "Not happening," I said. I dropped into the bus. The water was freezing, swirling with seat cushions and glass. I went under the surface, feeling for his legs. The dash had pinned him, but the seat was on a track. I found the release lever. It was stuck. I used my pry bar, wedging it behind the seat frame. I pushed with my legs, my back screaming, my lungs burning. The seat clicked. It slid back 6 inches. I hauled him out of the seat and shoved him toward the hatch just as the bridge piling gave way. The sound was like a tectonic plate snapping. The bus groaned and began to roll. "Pull!" I screamed into my radio. The driver was yanked through the hatch. I scrambled after him, my fingers catching the edge of the opening just as the bus lost its footing. I felt the weight of the vehicle drop away from my feet. For a split second, I was airborne, dangling from the rope as the bus was swept into the darkness downstream. It hit the intake grates 100 yards away with a sound that shook the entire valley. I swung in the air, the cold rain washing the sweat and river mud from my face. I was hauled up to the bridge, and as my boots hit the solid concrete of the road, I collapsed. I didn't care about the mud. I didn't care about the cold. I just cared about the solid, unmoving earth beneath me. We sat there on the bridge, the 6 of us survivors and rescuers watching the black water continue its relentless march toward the sea. The sun was beginning to peek through the clouds, a gray, tired light that signaled the end of the storm. The woman I had rescued from the bus walked over to me. She was wrapped in a wool blanket, her white hair matted with silt. She didn't say anything. She just reached out and touched the emblem on my helmet. Then she turned and walked toward the warming bus. That night, we saved 6 lives. We lost a car and a bus to the reservoir, but the reservoir didn't get what it wanted. It didn't get the souls. I've spent 35 years fighting the current. I've learned that you can't beat the water. You can only respect it. You can only stand in its way and hope you're strong enough to hold on. My shoulder eventually healed, but I still feel a twinge every time it rains. It's a reminder. A reminder that the current shows no mercy. But as long as we show up, it doesn't have the last word. Thank you for staying with me through the longest night of my life. This is why I started this channel, to make sure these moments aren't forgotten. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. We have many more stories to tell, and I want you there for every one of them. Share this with someone who needs to know that even when the floods come, there's always a hand reaching out in the dark. Stay safe, stay dry, and always, always respect the water. I'm Chief Mike, and this has been Firefighter Rescue Stories. Dispatch, Engine 7 is clear and returning to quarters. We're going home.